Okay, so we're back with week 4 of Grand Arena Championships, and this week the theme is going to be Vengeance. As some of you who follow me might have noticed in my last video, I joined the week 3 of Grand Arena Championships a little early, so my mods were a mess and all over the place. So I really had my battles for Grand Arena. I really did not enjoy at all. I had a really tough time with my teams because my teams weren't performing as expected. And so I decided to, write the week off and then come back with a vengeance on in week 4. So that's my goal this week. I'm going to go in, forget about feats, forget about undersizing, anything like that. I'm just going to go in and purely win and win aggressively all my matches. My goal this week was to make sure that I one-shot each and every team of my opponents and prevent my opponents from clearing my board. Those are the two main goals that I had. So let's go ahead and see if I'm able to achieve that in this week. So these are what my opponents look like for this week, and as expected from the 4th week of Grand Arena Championships, the opponents are pretty tough. Almost all of them are higher GP than me, except for one, Lord Lulchus, and then half of them, 4 out of the 8, have got a maxed out R7 General Skywalker. So I will have a very decent chance of facing a General Skywalker team, a maxed out General Skywalker team, at least once or twice. And then my current opponent, though, Bryman, he does not have General Skywalker at all. So I decided to keep my General Skywalker on offense just to make the match a little more fair. But it probably might be the last time I'll do that, just because it's been 6 weeks since General Skywalker is out, and tons of really good counters have been developed for him already. People are, especially after the nerf that happened to General Skywalker a week or two ago, it's pretty easy to one-shot the General Skywalker team. So I don't think I'll be doing that consideration anymore for in the future. I mean, there's so many counters right now to General Skywalker. There's obviously the Padme counter. There's CLS, which is, I think, even slightly better than the Padme counter. There's a really good Darth Revan team can easily one-shot it as well. And a good Grievous team also is capable of one-shotting it as well. In fact, the person who drops me from 1 after my payout, he runs a full Separatist squad with R7 Separatist droids. So a lot of options right now for taking down R7 501st teams. So they're really not as scary as they were a month or two ago. Okay, so taking a look at my my opponents this time, more or less evenly matched. I'm actually quite impressed with the level of matchmaking this time. Recently, it's been getting more and more even, so I'm pretty impressed with that. In my current group, there's only 2 people who've reached Kyber before me, and there's another guy, Anonymous Jedis, who has previously reached Kyber 331. So potentially could face him in the finals. But for my current opponent, I'm facing Bryman, who's like I mentioned, does not have General Skywalker, but his mods are more or less equal to mine, slightly better in terms of speed. But in terms of Grand Arena stats, he's got better defensive stats than me. So that led me to believe that my opponent actually is going to be setting a pretty decent defense. So let's go ahead and take a look at how his defense performs against my offense. So let's take a look at the defenses first. So I decided to go in with a really tough defense. So I set my Darth Revan without Bastila in the front, with my Night Sisters up top as well, because my current opponent does not have good troopers. And I decided to keep my Bounty Hunters with Nest. And this one, I've recently relic Jango to relic 5, and I was really happy with the results. It was hitting really hard, so I decided to keep that in the front. Weak fleet over there, and up front, down below, I've kept my Grievous Suicide Squad, and then the Newt with the other Separatist droids. Just wanted to try something different. And because I'm not keeping General Skywalker on defense, I kept my Shakti with clones and Badis, and kept Dooku with a few other characters over there. So let's take a look at my opponent's defenses. They've kept Nest with the First Order and some other mishmash teams, and then the Grievous team with the Watt down south, and a Separatist squad with some rebels in there as well. So let's go ahead and take out the toughest team out there, which is a Grievous team, because I do want to expose what's at the back down below. And I'm going to take in my Jedi Knight Revan team against that. First order of priority is to get rid of Watt and then focus on B1. So luckily over here, the B1 was had higher effective health and protection than Magna Guard, which made it really easy to focus on him and take him down after Watt was down. Um, I find those battles tougher where the Magna Guard is higher health and protection, and he gets the taunting tech from Watt. But but yeah, this one it worked out better for me. So it didn't take much time to get rid of Watt and B1, as you can see. And now I'm just waiting for the tech to come around. So I almost lost Jolie over here, but luckily I've taken Jolie also to R3. So he was able to survive it. And I think I've given him a crit avoidance arrow as well, which I think is making a big difference in his survivability. So about 80k health total on Jolie plus a crit avoidance arrow makes him pretty indestructible even when targeted by an R7 General Grievous. So here I'm just I've got the mark on him and I'm just trying to work on him to get him down, Grievous. And now that he's down, it's just a question of making sure that the rest of the team is able to end with decent health and protection. Called Bastilla because I want her health and protection to go up a little bit. There's just 63 stacks on B1, so it's just a waiting game right now. Managed to bring back Hermit Yoda so that we have a full squad when we exit, and now it's just a matter of cleaning up. Okay, so this battle was done with 55 banners. Let's go over to the next one. So now I try to clear the Newt, Jango and Dooku team, and for this I take my Geos in there. Geos are a hard counter to Newt. I really like the way that they interact against him. I mean, even against tougher Newt teams, Geos they do a really decent job. So here we don't have. I mean, the rebels are really a weak addition over here. They don't do anything much. I take out Chirrut first and then Baze, and then that gives me the flexibility to start working on the rest of the characters. So a cleanse from Poggle, and Baze is down. Then I immediately start working on Count Dooku since he's the biggest danger. And since there's damage immunity on Jango, I clear out Dooku first and then go for Newt. And then when Jango is left, there's no damage immunity on him, so he's a pretty easy one to take out. So this gives a very clean 60 banners. So let's go ahead to the next zone, see what's at the back. Okay, so we see over here that my opponent has kept his Geos and a Karth team, relatively weak Karth team. So this seemed like a weaker defense than what I'm used to seeing. And I'm surprised that my opponent had more defensive holds than me. But maybe they decided to keep a little everything on offense just so that they can make sure that they clear my General Skywalker team. But yeah, so I go ahead and go a little undersized on the Geo battle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed this up a little bit, since we all know how the Geo battles go with the Treya and Scion. So in this case, put a fracture on Brood first, isolate on the Brood, and then here I decided not to annihilate Brood, but Poggle, because Poggle has got this unique which says that anytime that an enemy dies, the rest of the Geos gain 25% offense. So I like to get rid of him first. He also has the stuff where he reduces turn meter and applies ability block. Well, the ability block shouldn't matter because it gets cleansed by Treya anyway, but I just like to, as a matter of principle, take out Poggle first. It makes it much easier. And now I'm just trying to clean up the rest of the Geos, and it's a simple enough job. 58 banners there. Let's go ahead and clear the next zone. Let's see what else we can take against it. So I've decided to attack the first order team next, and it's a highly relic first order team. And you can see over here the Kylo Ren unmasked is at 115k health, which is really well modded for health. So, and it's got Nest also in there. So I think that's the next toughest team. So I decide to since there are no really meta teams on defense, I decided to go ahead with my Padme team and use that to take out the crew and Nest team. So crew has applied stun on Padme, and it's a double turn stun, so that's a little unfortunate. So I need to figure out a way to get that cleanse. So what I do is with basic with Ahsoka when it crits, that cleanses a random ally, and since Padme was the only one who had a debuff, she got cleansed. So that was a good way around it. And now I'm just trying to do as much damage as I can, take out a couple of them over there. Now courage obviously won't do any much damage to both the Kylos, but these guys do enough damage by themselves to even without courage that it really shouldn't be much of an issue. So here you can see I'm going to try a big hit on Kylo. Let's see if that works. Almost got him. And the good thing is these guys have got healing immunity. So Kylo on buffs, he's now going to get healed. So that makes this job that much easier. So really not much of a match for a Padme team. The Padme team I think really is one of the best offensive teams in the games right now. So definitely no question about that. Okay, so ended with 55 banners. Not the best for banners, but they can defeat almost anything on the board. Let's go ahead and see what else we have. So the next battle is I think I go against the old Ben team with Wampa, and I think I take my crew in there. Yeah, with Watt. So let's see how this battle goes. So I got to hand it to my opponent for at least trying out some different teams on defense. I mean, yeah, these are teams that I haven't really seen on defense, so at least it was something interesting to try out. But it's really not much of an issue. You can take care of these teams pretty easily, undersized as well. So I think mixing and matching teams works when you've got a few stronger teams, and just mixing and matching random teams might not be as effective. But I think when you've got a few stronger characters and a few stronger teams with good synergies amongst themselves, especially cross-faction synergies, that's the stuff which really works on defense. But teams like these, they're pretty easily controlled by even B teams like First Order and so on. First Order Watt is actually a really good combination to take out against Night Sisters as well. But in this case, since I didn't face any Night Sisters on defense, decided to use this against this team, because I have more than enough on offense. Even though I have set a relatively tougher defense, I did have more than enough on offense, so was able to spare this team for this one. Alright, so here I'm just busy trying to clean up this team. Chopper is tanky, is G12, but it's not much of an issue for these guys. Okay, so that takes care of this team. Let's go ahead to the next one. So the last team to take out in this zone, just the bounty hunter team, and I decided to go in with my CLS undersized because you really don't need more than these three for a simple bounty hunter team. And yeah, go with taking out the weakest one first, Sam, because I don't like her thermals as well. So whenever I get a chance to take her out early, it's always good. And then with these guys, it's really not much of an issue because they do tons of damage. So I leave the ones who do AoE for the end, and I take out the others first. Wasn't able to avoid the thermals from Dengar. but shouldn't be an issue. Just finish. Yeah, it's it's a pretty simple 61 points. All right, let's go to the next team. I expose the back to see a rebel fleet over here, and it should be no problem. But let's go ahead and tackle the last zone down below. I have a lot of offense left. My GTR, Wampa, but I just decided to go solo with the General Skywalker because this team, yeah, I mean, it really is no match for a solo General Skywalker, especially since he ignores defense. Zalbar is can be easily one or two shot with him. So 63 banners over there. Let's go ahead and see what's at the top. So that's a standard rebel fleet, and I'm going to go in with my own rebel fleet with Biston, so it should be a relatively simple match. Okay, and yeah, I taken these days I like to take in Plo Koon along with my rebels fleet, just because he's able to have little extra protection and health recovery towards the end by calling him in. So first target the bigs, take him out. Wedge then goes with an AoE, and then they do manage to do some damage with their mass assist, but in the end it's a simple victory. 63 banners there. So here's the final outcome of the match. I did win it pretty comfortably. My opponent wasn't able to clear me, so I'd gotten I think 1928, and my opponent only got 1340. Was able to clear the zone below, but wasn't able to clear my bounty hunters and night sisters. So that was a pretty comfortable win for me. So here's how things were at the end of the first battle. So there was Anonymous Jedi, Bob Wills, Lord Lutches, and me, who made it to the second round, who won one match each. My current opponent is Lord Lutches, and for the very first time in Grand Arena, I'm facing an opponent with lower GP than me, 4.8 versus my 4.9. So this guy has a really focused roster and really good characters, pretty decently modded, but extremely focused roster. Lesser number of Zetas than me, but I was pretty impressed with his roster. Like you can see over here, his General Skywalker, Malak, Jedi Knight Anakin, and General Grievous all were R7, and he had I think one or two more other R7s as well. But pretty good roster, and it was pretty interesting facing him. So let's go and see how that battle went. So a quick look at my defenses first. Went with a similar strategy, kept my Darth Revan on defense as well as my Jango bounty hunters, and also kept L3 with my Karth team. And then down below, I kept my General Skywalker team as well as a new team with the Separatists. So I kept my Grievous team with the Suicide Squad at the back, because I felt that once they've exhausted a Jedi Knight Raven or a tough counter against the new team, they might probably have a tough time against a surprise Grievous at the back. So that was the thinking behind that. And then let's go ahead and take a look at my opponent's defenses. They've got their own Jedi Knight, their own General Skywalker team up front with a tough Rebel team as well. And then down south, they've got a Sisters team and a Karth team. Now the Karth team is relatively simple, and I was surprised to see two relatively simpler teams at the bottom. You're supposed to make it tough for your opponent to see what's at the back in the character section, and I usually set my two toughest teams out there. So I was surprised to see relatively weaker teams in the front. Well, it made my job easier. I didn't have to expend any meta teams to try to see what's at the back. So now I'm just using my standard first order counter against the Karth team to take it out. Pretty easy to control. As long as you stun Juhani first, make sure she doesn't cleanse anyone, then just keep working on taking out the others while dispelling Zalbar when you can. So pretty easy to control everyone with this team. Now I've kept my own Karth team on defense as well, but instead of Juhani, I've kept L3 as a fifth tank over there, and I think L3 makes this team slightly tougher to take down. Um, it's still easy to take down, but at least L3 adds an added level of complexity because you can't use as many AoEs. You can't use your standard crew counter because your Kylo wouldn't be able to use as many AoEs. And because every time you hit L3, she dispels a debuff. So when a stun gets dispelled or cleansed, it's of no use. And you have to basically dance your way around the team if L3 is in there as well. So if you want to really leave Karth in there, I would say consider leaving L3 or a tank like that in there too. Now I have the Night Sister team to take out, and I use my Basti Wampa counter over here. I don't have any other Jedi tank that I can spare, so I just put in Scatterable Pathfinder and go with that. R7 Wampa is really no problem at all for the Night Sister team counter. He's hitting people for 120, 140k, so it's really not much of an issue taking this team down. I could have gone with a slightly weaker squad as well to take these guys out, but Night Sisters can surprise you, so it's okay to overkill once in a way against them. Okay, let's see what's at the back, and then we can decide what to take up top. So we have a Jango Bounty Hunter team with Nest and Kira as well. So let's go ahead and tackle the Grievous squad. Now this is an R7 Grievous with 143k health, but he's not in a typical Grievous lineup. He's in a almost a Suicide Squad kind of a lineup with the HK in the lead, but with BB-8 also in there too. So all of them are going to go first. So I decided to go in with my Night Sisters because these guys have tons of survivability, the Night Sisters, and even if a Grievous team goes first, these guys are able to recover back and come back like it's nothing. So this is a good team to take against a Grievous as long as water's not in there. So what I'm doing over here is I'm targeting T3 first because T3 is the one who gives all that damage to the team, to Grievous especially. So once T3 is gone, then it's a pretty easy job. The Grievous won't be hitting as hard, and my Daka won't be in as much danger. So, and the other advantage of taking Night Sisters is you saw that T3 died, but Grievous did not take a bonus turn. It was because he was stunned. And the reason that the stun was able to stick on him was because of Plague. He wasn't able to dispel or cleanse himself because of that. So that worked out okay. Now that bonus turn was unavoidable. He did manage to take it, but I was able to get them back. Second time he was able to do it, but you can see Daka is still at almost 80 to 90% health. So it really didn't make much of a difference, the AoEs from an R7 Grievous. I think my Daka is currently at R3 with around 115k health, and with all these assists being called from the grave and all these deaths, Daka right now must be close to 200 to 250k health. So pretty survivable. So that was the Grievous squad taken care of by Night Sisters. I no longer put Night Sisters on defense. I find them so much more effective on offense. And there's too many counters already available on defense. Alright, so at this point I decided to take a little break before tackling the tougher teams over here. And I decided to give it a few hours and before attacking my enemy. I wanted to see how my opponent would perform against my defense before deciding what to take against those. So they were able to, they did struggle against my defense. They were able to one-shot my Darth Revan, but 2 battles against the Bounty Hunter team and 3 battles against Karth with L3. So I was pretty happy to see that. They might have underestimated it initially. So one shot against my Mace team. It's best probably to keep your weakest teams for ships. And then down south, they did struggle quite a lot against my General Skywalker team. 3 battles there, and 2 battles against the Newt Separatist droids as well. And then at the back, they one-shot the random team that I had in there. But 5 battles against the Grievous team. So the Grievous nuke squad did surprise them. and I think by this time they'd run out of teams and they didn't have anything to take out the lone Grievous. So this is the state of the battle. I do have a lot of room, but I do want to clear it. I can afford some mistakes, but I want to one-shot anything anyway. So let's go ahead and take the Padme team against the General Skywalker. That's the best counter that I have against it. And I've taken Shakti over here, and this time I've modded Shakti for health and made her pretty fast. Same thing with C3PO. I've made him quite survivable as well. Now I'm just trying to. It's a gear 13 or 7 General Skywalker, so he's going to take a little bit of time to get down to cover. So I'm just trying to survive till that happens. So doing what I can to get him down. And good thing is, yep. So now that he's down, what I do is I first get some bonus protection up, and then I decide to go for Rex and get him down quickly so that 5 sacrifices himself, and then I can get rid of Rex again fast. So there, 5 sacrificed himself, and then with 1 hit I get rid of Rex again. So this does supercharge Echo a little bit, but I took that risk because I wanted to be able to get 5s down fast. So now 5s, Rex, Echo, and 5s, all those guys are down. I'm just trying to take care of Ahsoka before I try to handle the lone Skywalker. So a lucky foresight saved me over there, and now I'm just trying to hide Anakin so that he doesn't get targeted. So unfortunately I lost Shakti and General Kenobi, but at least I was able to one-shot his General Skywalker with the 50 banners, so that was a good outcome. And now we have a rebel team with Watt in there, which is pretty tough. So I decided to take in my own rebel team in there because I don't want Watt to get out any of his techs. So unfortunately his Han went first, and I wasn't able to kill his Watt because my Chewie was stunned. So here I am trying to do what I can to get Watt down as soon as possible. I couldn't prevent him giving the taunting tech to Stormtrooper Han, and that's a G13 Stormtrooper Han. So that's an interesting combination to have. If I had this team, I would have probably run it too, because it can become a really tough team on offense. So I'm trying to do my best to try to take down the Watt when I can, and here I get a shot, and the Watt is pretty tanky. I wasn't able to take him down until almost the middle of the battle. Good thing was he was ability blocked, so he didn't pass out any other techs. So the only tech that he passed out was for Stormtrooper Han, and I was able to take care of him with all the counters that these guys had. So now it's just a question of taking out Han and CLS without losing any more characters. So so this was a decent team, and I think any other team would have probably struggled, but my CLS team was able to do a decent job. I think I've added enough damage to Han that he was able to power down some of these characters. So that was done, and at the back over here, my opponent kept a weak team just like me on ships. So not a big deal. I went ahead and used my own rebel fleet to take care of that. So nothing too interesting over here. I just went in with my regular fleet, and I think I left 1 slot empty because you really don't need against a weak fleet like that. You don't really need the full fleet. So this is the Sith squad. I've never really faced the Sith bomber, but it wasn't much of an issue. They do drop thermal bombs, but yeah, I mean the team was taken out pretty easily with 65 banners, which is about 1 less than the max you can get. So now I decide to go ahead and clear off what's at the back. The next toughest team is the bounty hunter team, And then we've got the Kira squad as well. So I decided to take in my Geos against the Kira squad, and I go in undersized. Don't I leave out my Sunfac, and this is a pretty straightforward battle. This is a hard counter against teams like these, which have a lot of taunts and yeah, so they're pretty easy to control with the ability block and just all up turn meter reduction, and even hefty tanks like L337, even at G12, they can be taken down pretty easily with hard hitting Geo, so not much of an issue. I'm saving my heal for now, till we get rid of these guys. But I wasn't able to use the heal, but still ended up with full banners and full protection. Okay, now the last team, Bounty Hunters with the Nest, which is the same team I have on defense as well. The difference is I've kept an R5 Nest, R5 Jango. So G12, Jango, and Boba are not really a threat at all. And I've never really developed my Bounty Hunters with the exception of Boba, Bosk, and Jango. Boba and Bosk are G12, but Jango I've recently taken to R5, and I've been really happy with the results. He hits so hard, and the team gets underestimated with other G12 and G11 bounty hunters. I think it can prove to be pretty effective. I could have probably undersized this battle, just with the Sith trio. I think they would have done the job pretty well enough, but yeah, I just decided to take in my Dooku and Thrawn. Thrawn was completely ineffective, and Dooku landed a few good stuns, but I think he gets taken out pretty easily over now with Nest and Jango, I think. Yeah, there you go. I'd forgotten that Jango had damage immunity. I think they reached their payout, so ended up attacking him, but still ended up taking out Jango with my annihilate first. The other guys are harmless, including Nest, pretty harmless. Um, doesn't really do much. Nest is only dangerous against teams which generate a lot of buffs, like Jedi teams, um, and um, Basti teams, and even Padme teams. If left unchecked, she can really generate a lot of offense and create havoc. But against teams like Treya, where there's not much buffs generated, there's not much offense stacking for Nest. But even then, you can see over here, I did have a few moments of scare where Nest did end up doing a decent amount of damage, but ultimately this team pulls through. Okay, so now I attack a boss because he's got pain and I want to recover some protection. And now I take care of Nest, and then it's just a matter of cleanup. And yeah, now it's just Bosk. I should have used Hell by Hatred out there. Okay, just taking my time, and there we go. Now I use Hell by Hatred, and then just take care of Bosk whenever I get the chance. So Bounty Hunter Nest is a very decent defensive option, and it forces you to take a really tough team against it. Especially if you keep it in the front, they're forced to take a tough team against it if they want to see what's at the back. And if they end up for whatever reason not one-shotting it, then they end up using two expensive teams to take it out. So yeah, they're properly modded and properly geared. It can suck up a really good team. So and it sucked up a lot of banners from me. I only got 50 banners over here. But despite that, I ended up with a score of 1908. So I was pretty happy with that outcome. One shot everything, and a plus 1900 score is pretty okay, especially since my opponent wasn't able to clear me. So that's where I entered the second battle of the week. Yep. So pretty happy with the outcome. Now let's go ahead and see what we have in store for us on the third week for the third match. All right, so this is the result of the first two matches, and I was a little surprised actually at the results because apart from me, all the other characters, all the other players who had R7 General Skywalker, they lost at least one match, and one of them fell out. He lost two matches. In fact, at the end of the week, I found out that he had lost three matches to end up at the very last position in our group. So having an R7 General Skywalker, maxed out General Skywalker, is no longer a guarantee of a victory because now enough counters exist that team can be handled pretty easily. So my current opponent, for example, he has only a G11 General Skywalker, but he's defeated at least one or two other R7 General Skywalkers pretty easily. And I'm not surprised because he's got some pretty decent stats, pretty decent mods. R7 across Malak, Jedi Knight Anakin, General Grievous. Very good offensive record, the best in the group, 267. And he's previously reached Kyber before, 331 rank in Kyber. So pretty decent opponent, and I was looking forward to facing him to see what kind of a defense they would have for me. So my defense was more or less unchanged. I still kept my Darth Revan, uh, Karth with L3, and Bounty Hunters up top. They've been doing pretty well for me, the Bounty Hunters, Jango lead. And then down south, I kept again my Skywalker and the Nuke team. Get the Grievous Droid team, the Nuke team at the back. And this time I decided to try the rest of my clones and Baddis under Shark T instead of the weak Java team that I put last time. So that's just a throwaway team, just because I wanted to save enough for offense and a weak fleet at the back. So at the top, I'm facing First Order and Karth, pretty weak, but there's also a Grievous with Watt, which could be tricky. But first, I want to open up this zone to see what's at the back. And for the sisters, I decided to go in with my Geos. And Geos are a pretty decent and reliable counter to Asajj sisters, especially if they are similar gear levels, gear and relic levels. It's a little bit more dicey if you decide to go against Talzin lead, just because these guys can't handle plague as much, which is why Talzin lead sisters is actually a very good counter to Geonosians. But as long as you see but you really don't see a Talzin lead on defense these days. So as long as you have a Sarge lead and they're more or less similarly geared and relict, the Geos can be used to counter them. It can get a little dicey at times, especially if the stun wrongs lands on the wrong person. But the good thing about the Geo team is you do have a couple of people who can cleanse. There's your Brood Alpha, obviously, and then there's also Poggle, both of whom can cleanse the stuns. So here you see, I think it was Poggle who decided to go ahead and cleanse it. And you've got quite a few characters who can heal as well. Obviously, Brood Alpha has got his big heal. And then with some of these uniques, both protection and health gets healed every time they use a basic. So these guys are like right over here. I saved my heal for after Talzin did her plague. So that's the key to surviving under against an Asajj lead with Talzin at the back is you need to save your heals for when plague goes out and ensure that your team is without plague at all times. Um, so they have tons of survivability. What you need to do is keep dispelling zombie, and any chance that you get, apply ability block on as many sisters as possible. Especially if you think that Talzin is about to go again with her plague, just keep applying the ability block on her. If you've just killed a sister other than Daka, apply an ability block on Daka so that she can no longer revive them. Um, the uh, the one bad thing over here is none of the geos have days, and days is actually something which is pretty effective in countering Asajj lead sisters. So it can get dicey a little bit because of that. So here you can see I've exhausted both of my free revives, and I've killed Spirit, and now I've killed Daka. And now I just need to make sure that the I target 1000 because I don't want any plague reducing my health, because then my 55 banners will probably go down to 50 banners. And then here I could have done a little more, I could have targeted zombie and gotten a little bit more health and protection. But I didn't want to risk it because if Spirit was the last one remaining, I maybe would have risked it. But with Asajj being the last one there, she's already ramped up pretty high on all the deaths. I didn't want her doing an AOE or landing a wrong basic hit to kill one of my characters. So I just decided to finish it off and take the 55 banners win. The next team is simple enough as well, just a plain bounty hunter team. It's got Jango lead, so they are slightly faster than my troopers. Otherwise, I would have used my troopers there. But in this zone, you really should keep some tough teams so that you don't give your opponents an easy pass. But here, I'm deciding what to take against it, and I ultimately decide to go with an Empire team, EP lead, with Thrawn in there, where Thrawn probably wasn't necessary. But my goal was to one-shot all of his teams because I was sure that my opponent was going to clear me with all one-shots, especially because he's used to taking down pretty tough teams. So I think I'm gonna play it safe and overkill when I can. That's my goal with this particular battle. So as you can see over here, this was a really really easy matchup. This was a weak bounty hunter team, not really very relic up, and I barely give them a turn, and all my characters are at full health and full protection. The other reason I'm doing this is I want to put a really high score on the board so that my opponent gets pressured, because I'm going to wait for them to go after I clear and see what's at the back, and that might force them to make some mistakes. So 60 banners over here, 55 banners in the last one, so around 57 and a half average so far. And I open up the back to see what's there, and I notice that he's kept his General Skywalker team, and a tricky Newt team over there as well. And so I decide to wait, but before that, I know that there's one very straightforward team that I can take out, which is going to be the Karth team. I can use my first order against that for a sure shot victory. And this one is a plain vanilla first order team, so I do what I always do, which is stun Juhani and then work on the rest. So speeding up the match a little bit because it's I've done this match dozens of times, and you guys have seen me do the same thing. Nothing really interesting there. It's a very sure shot way to get at least 58 to 60 banners. It's easy enough to recover protection and health on crew and first order stormtrooper. Fox also can recover a lot of buffs, so he recovers protection and health. It's first order officer who can sometimes it can be challenging for him to recover health and protection because it doesn't gain as many buffs. He does give buffs to other characters with his special ability, but doesn't gain as much buffs unless he gets a defense up from first order stormtrooper or advantage from one of the other characters. So so it looks like even crew over here is having a tough time recovering his protection. I think I almost managed to recover for crew, but just not able to get there. And yeah, these guys die faster than I can recover protection on first order officer and crew. So I ended up with 58, which was fine. At this stage, I'm still at about 57, 58 banner average, taking down 3 teams. And at this stage, I decide to wait for my opponent to move. And as you can see over here, it's 1 hour 46 minutes left for the attack phase, and my opponent did go. A couple of battles on my General Skywalker, but the other team was one shot. And he hasn't made a move on the other teams except for taking out my Darth Revan as well. So he's also playing the waiting game. Each of us have taken out 3 teams each, and I'm about 30 something points ahead. So I decided to just, since it's only 1.5 hours left, I just decided to just go ahead and start my attack phase. I want to at least try to one-shot everything to put some pressure on my opponent. So I take my Padme against his Skywalker. And this one is an R a level a 5-star or 6-star Skywalker, only G11, so not as intimidating as some of the other ones I've faced, but the clones are pretty well geared, and with the Skywalker lead Zeta, the uh, the clones get all the 5 of us get escalating damage, escalating offense with each buff, and Padme team is famous for giving up tons of buffs. So I need to find a way to quickly get these guys down as soon as possible without giving them a chance to get too much offense up from the buffs. I'm not able to target any of the weaker clones because unfortunately fives is taunting. So I need to burn through fives and then go after one of the other clones. Luckily, I had enough courage to do that. Now, with enough courage on R2, I take care of Rex because I don't want him one-shotting anyone. Um, and now I try to get Skywalker down a second time as soon as possible. Maybe I should have used my special out there. I don't know why I used my basic. But anyway, here Ahsoka gets rid of my tank, General Kenobi, but I'm able to get rid of the other two guys pretty easily. And this stage, I'm trying to decide what I want to do, whether I want to kill Ahsoka or keep someone under stealth. I decide to go ahead and use stealth because I can afford to lose R2, but I need the others to help me finish off Kenobi, to finish off General Skywalker. So, so that's what I did over here. It was easy enough. I had enough stacks of courage left to finish off an R5 Skywalker, an R well, a 5-star 5 Skywalker, and now I'm just trying to see which other team to take out. So the next toughest team over here is the Grievous team, and so here there's it presented me with a problem because I don't think I had anything left in me to one shot the Grievous team. So I decided to go ahead and use my Han to kill the Watt initially, and then use my sisters as a cleanup. So this is a conscious decision I made to basically go for a double shot, because I knew that with my sisters alone I couldn't have one shot Grievous because Watt was there, and Watt, if he had enough time to put the tech out to B1 or Grievous, the weapons tech, then he would prevent my sisters from being revived. So I couldn't afford that, so I had to go in for a double shot. It wasn't ideal, but I didn't really, given that I had already kept my Darth Revan on defense, I didn't really have enough offense to clear it. So I needed to basically deliberately plan this double shot out. So sisters are great cleanup team. Even if there's tons of turn meter on the Grievous team, it really doesn't matter because sisters have got tons of survivability. So it really wasn't much of a big deal for the sisters to clean it up. But with Watt in there, I was very hesitant with the sisters being there, which is why I took Han in there. In hindsight, another thing that I could have done was probably instead of Spirit, I could have got Han in there, and then one shot Watt with Han, and then the rest of the four sisters could have potentially killed off Grievous and the rest of the team. So in that way, it could have been a one shot, but that was risky as well because um, you know um, I really didn't know whether Daka would get enough of a chance to get enough health back to survive some of Grievous's big hits. So maybe if my opponent had already gone and I was in the mood for a little more risk, I could have tried that. Han with the sisters to first take care of Watt and then get the rest of the team down. But this way was good enough. I managed to get 35 banners, and was able to take out the second toughest team on the board. Um, and now I need to just finish off the other two teams. Against the first order team, it's pretty simple enough. I've got more than enough offense left. I've got my Wampa, I've got my Jedi Knight Revan team. I just decided to go in with the Sith trio. These guys are a pretty comfortable victory against the First Order. It takes a while because these guys don't have any direct damage, with the exception of Annihilate, obviously. I've modded these guys for survivability just because of the way that the Grand Arena matches go these days, and the utility that Treya has. It depends mostly on surviving. For example, against Geos or Sisters or things like that. So these guys are not really built for damage, which is why it takes a little while, but that's fine. Um, the main danger over here obviously is first order executioner because he can have some big hits. But what I've done is I've isolated crew so that I can go ahead and attack the other guys pretty comfortably. Um, Good thing is these guys keep Scion keeps recovering protection. There's plenty of bonus protection that Treya gets, and Nihilus keeps getting tons of health with all the debuffs on Scion and Treya. So these guys are pretty survivable as is. So I'm not really that worried about their survivability. I'm just taking my time, getting these guys down one by one. I take out Fox first, and then I target the next weak first order officer, and then just go for the others. So so yeah, it's a pretty straightforward match. So there goes first order officer, and now I'm just trying to take out Stormtrooper before killing off both the Kylos. So since I'm not using my Treya to counter Geos anymore, since I've been saving my sisters for that, it actually frees up a lot of good counters. I can, these guys are a very good utility team that you can use to undersize any major B or C team. It's a pretty comfortable way to get some decent banners. So I've even thought about keeping these guys on defense, the first the Sith trio, but there's so many counters to the Sith trio these days, including CLS, rebels, bounty hunters. So it's really not worth it unless these guys are really relicked up with tons of survivability. Okay, so this battle is done, and we get about 59 banners. Uh, so my opponent still hasn't moved. I think he's waiting for me to complete all of my battles before attacking. And I see that even though my opponent has Negotiator, they've put their Rebel fleet on defense, which shouldn't be much of an issue for me. So I just want to clear off the last team. This is a tricky new team, and if kept in the front, I probably wouldn't have taken my Jedi Knight Revan team against it. But because it's at the back, and I've already cleared the rest of the board, I take the next best team that I have, and try to get as many banners as I can. I could have gone undersized over here as well because Jedi Knight Revan is an overpowered team, and you really don't need all five characters to take out this particular team. But I just want to clear the board with as many banners as possible, and I think it's more likely that I will get full 60 banners if I take the full five people in, rather than going in underhanded and potentially losing out a banner or two and ending up with 58, 59 banners, or even potentially losing someone. But uh, but as you can see over here, it's not much of an issue. These guys are squishy enough, especially against a relic 5 Yoda. These guys melt pretty fast, so it's not much of an issue at all, and I am able to heal completely and end with full health and full protection on everyone for a full 60 banners. So that's a good outcome. And now only the fleet is left, and luckily my opponent hasn't kept a negotiator. They kept it on offense, which feels really weird to me because if I see that my opponent does not have the negotiator and I have the negotiator, I would probably keep that on defense and use my rebel fleet on offense, because rebels can take out almost anything on offense, including enemy negotiators. So keeping a negotiator on defense seems like the better plan. But I think most people like to play it safe with ships because they don't want to risk not clearing a section. So they decide to keep their strongest ships on offense, which is fine, which is exactly what I've done as well. I've kept a really weak fleet on defense and use my Rebels, which is the fleet that I usually climb with every day, as on offense. And I've been using Rebels to climb against 6-star negotiators, and now we've got a couple of 7-star negotiators in our fleet shard as well. And I haven't really felt the need to unlock the negotiator yet because my rebel fleet is doing fine. I've got a relatively weak ship shard. I don't drop below 15 on overnight, so my climb is really not that tough, and I'm able to win battles against negotiators as well. So over here you see I got 66 banners, which is full banners, which is uh, which is a good outcome for the last couple of matches. So with all of that, and with having a one double shot against the Grievous, I ended up at 1900 banners. So if I had one shot the Grievous, that would have probably been closer to 1915, 1920 banners. So I was happy with 1900 because I was sure my opponent was going to struggle at some of these teams that I've set up. Maybe the Grievous team, maybe the Jango team. Almost as soon as I finished my attack, within half an hour, my opponent started attacking me as well. Let me show you what happened there. So I went back in and recorded. This is about 10 minutes before the attack phase ended. My opponent one shot everything at the back, both the Grievous nuke as well as the Shakti squad, and then one shot my Karth as well, but struggled quite a bit on the bounty hunters. Initially, was able to take down Bosk, but then had to go back in for a few more battles. So I think the bounty hunters did their job. I was pretty happy with the relic investment on Jango. So at the end of the week, I was pretty happy. 3 wins against three tough opponents. Um, I was able to clear all of the 3 zones, and I was able to prevent my opponents from clearing all 3 times. So that was like the perfect outcome for me. That's exactly what I want in a grand arena match. I want to prevent the full clear by setting a really tough defense, and I want to full clear my opponents with all one shots. And I was able to one shot all my 3 opponents' teams, with the exception of that one Grievous team towards the end. Um, but I think it was a good outcome. So I was pretty happy with this week. I think it was a good comeback after a really disappointing third week. So now we've got a little bit of a break before the next season starts. We've got about a week. So I will catch you guys in a couple of weeks' time when I upload the battles for the first week of the next season. Until then, game responsibly and all the best.